like a month, I guess.
Yes. Hey, so just one thing I'm noticing real quick. Do we want to have the Nokia story in here, or do we want to cut that out?
Which one is it? Oh, yeah, I think cut that. Yeah, okay. All right, we are live, and no sponsor this week, so move that. And then I will hit the social button and start recording. Make sure the stupid audio enhancement button is not turned on. It seems like the clicking has gone mostly away, which doesn't actually make me feel that much better about it. Okay, I think, are we having that weird issue? Wait, can somebody else talk?
Somebody else could.
I wonder if I have the volume just set too low. Test, test. 1, 2, 3. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I guess it looks fine, actually. All right. I think we are... Well, I guess I could... Oh, wait. That's playback speed. I don't want to dick with that. Oops. That is the wrong button. Let me make sure that I'm actually using the right audio interface, though. That would actually matter. Yes, speakers, headphones. Okay. We are good. We are actually good to go.
Getting my Ninja Pop Out chat, so.
No, I should do that.
Ninja Pop Out. There we go.
Yeah, the YouTube chat looks a little different, doesn't it?
It does look different.
Quite a bit.
I can tell you that the bottom bar is way bigger than it used to be, and it's taking up way more real estate on my screen than I want it to.
Completely.
Yeah, I don't know why. It seems oddly proportioned.
I just resize it.
Well, it's sort of... I love putting the chat directly below our video feed.
Right, that's what I do with it too. And now 50% of it is the bottom bar.
Oh, see, I do the vertical window arrangement.
Yes. Well, you're just weird.
Let me restart
I have it.
I am weird with my 30-minute screen timeout and my vertically arranged windows, and I'm bizarre. Okay.
Oh my god! I hit the emoticon button and now I don't know how to get back out.
How do I escape?
You have to use an emoticon now.
Well, I put an emoticon in there and it still
hit the emoticon button again.
Matt, the only way out is through.
Oh, geez, all of them, every emoticon.
It's all of them. Yes.
We are we sponsored?
We're recording. We're not sponsored this week, so no pre-roll, no nothing.
Okay.
No rolls, pre, mid, or otherwise.
Can I just say, guys, that I thought it was really precious when you were trying to do the intro that week that I was sick.
It's not like David hasn't heard it 1,000 times or whatever, 300.
I hear lots of things 1,000 times and then don't recall what they are. So,
Yes. I mean, I doubt that you could mimic the sound of your car starting with much accuracy.
Probably not.
All right, let's do this thing. I am just like your car starting. Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, January 12th, 2017. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And I'm Cody Toombs.
So this is the first show in 2017. We got to start it off right. We got to do a good job tonight, guys.
Okay, so the opposite of what we usually do.
Opposite of what we normally do. We actually have to do a good job and try really hard and all that stuff.
Okay.
Should.
We're in trouble. All right, so we're going to kick things off with Android Wear 2.0, which, honestly, if we want a good show, maybe this isn't a good place to start. But Wear 2.0, apparently, according to the notification some developers are getting, is coming in early February. We don't have an exact date, but early February. And obviously, this was supposed to be out a while ago, but they pulled back the reins a little bit and redid some things. How much of an idea do we have of what Wear 2.0 is going to look like? Is it been pulled back from the reins quite a bit, or?
Well, developer preview 4 was supposed to be not a final, but very much edging in on the final, and they've been pretty adamant about advertising the features, showing off what's coming. So it's getting pretty close. There's going to be an on-watch store. That's something they've been talking about forever. Notifications have gotten a little bit of tweaking, and they still definitely deserve more. Let's see, the whole thing about using the hardware button to get out of apps, but they return to swiping from left to right to get out of apps like that. We kind of know all that stuff now, so they'll probably have a couple minor things left to do, but at this stage it's fixing bugs, maybe cleaning up the API a little bit, and that should be about it.
And I guess so the developer preview in January, the last one, that one is supposedly going to add Android Pay and the Google Assistant being the big things. I think that's what they said.
I thought those were supposed to come with the final release.
I could have swore they said something about at least Android Pay coming.
Well,
with
so no, I remember Android Pay, but like, how would Assistant work? Like, if you have a phone that doesn't have Assistant and you connect a watch to it, do you have Assistant?
The same way Assistant on Google Home doesn't work with the Assistant on your phone that doesn't have Assistant, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's still the big question: is what nature of things do you have to have for Assistant on the watch? Is it a watch thing? Is it related to your phone? Is it like both of them have to be the right things? Like you have to have a Pixel phone, or Google has not been specific about this yet. They just call it or Google Assistant support.
Yeah, they have not been very specific at all. So I guess we'll have to wait and see as to how that plays out.
Do you think that there's a possibility that it might work different on different devices, meaning that perhaps the Google branded watches that we're expecting to see soon maybe will have full Assistant support, whereas everything else is just going to tie into what's on your phone?
I mean, I think that it's in Google's interest to do everything possible to keep OEMs interested in Android Wear. I don't think they want to be they want to be limiting things to their watches.
Yeah. I think they're rushing in there with the defibrillator paddles, and one of them is Assistant, one of them is Android Pay, and they're just praying for life at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and so if they're pushing Wear 2.0 in February, I mean, we can probably expect those Google watches in not too long.
He said the first quarter for the watches was what Google said to The Verge. So sometime.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know that I would necessarily bet on them releasing at the same time as Wear 2.0, but I would almost bet the announcement will come the same day.
That would seem like a good idea.
Yeah. You can buy these on the Google store in like 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, that seems to be
March 31st. You can.
That would be a good way to synergize your marketing, as they say, as nobody says. Yeah.
All right, so next little bit of news comes from Google Maps. We have seen rolling out 100% native integration for Uber. It looks like there's a video that hints at Lyft possibly coming soon. There's a little link in the video, but the ability to basically order up an Uber directly from Google Maps, to track their progress, to call them, and just kind of do the whole thing all from the Maps app without ever have to leave or go into the Uber standalone application. So pretty cool stuff there, right, guys?
You know, Matt, I would like to draw attention to the fact that you say Uber in a pretty cool way. It's not the way I say it. I just give it the O treatment, the Uber. You give it a bit of a twist, a bit of kind of a Midwesty twist on the oo.
I have no idea how I say it now, and
like there's
anything that I say from this point on is probably going to be modified.
Now you've made it aware of it. You
should have maybe there's a Y that's like kind of curious about being in front of the U. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
You should have just baited him into saying it again instead of pointing out the way he says it. Now we'll never hear it.
It's been modified for good now.
Yeah. This
so
is
anyways, David,
this
been
is cool
asking
feature.
for Uber support for a while, right?
Yeah, a lot of Uber support. Been asking for Uber support for some time. Because honestly, when I'm okay, I have to go somewhere. Well, what's the first thing I do? I go to Google Maps to look up a POI because I don't trust Uber to direct me to a business. I trust it with an address. I don't really usually trust it with place names. It's gotten better. So usually I just go to Google Maps, see how long the drive is, and if I want to take in a Uber, I will then select the rideshare option and then go from there usually. So doing it in the app makes sense to me. I think it's convenient. That, and I feel like the Uber app is finicky, and I mean this could be really finicky too because it's obviously utilizing a connection to Uber services. But I like Google Maps better than the Uber app. So this to me is a good thing. And yeah, I would like it to have Lyft support because I mostly use Lyft.
Yeah, well, the little demo video, there was a separate tab for Lyft, so I have to think it's coming soon. Why would they put it in a demo?
Well, because I think it's not a demo. It's because you can still see the prices for Lyft, but then it hops you to the app.
I get it.
So, and Uber or Google owns a significant stake in Uber. So I think that they're more likely to work with them on these sorts of things. Whereas I don't know if Lyft is quite as interested. Because obviously, you'd have to work out data sharing agreements. Is Uber getting any of that user data? The Uber users.
Uber users.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe Lyft might not be as willing to work with Google in that sense. Man, this sound clicking thing on my stereo is driving me nuts. But yeah, it's a good feature. It does seem to be a server-side switch thing. So if you're not seeing it yet, maybe it'll come out to you later. It also appears to be a limited test.
All right, so we touched on Android Assistant coming to watches a little bit. We talked about that. That was a thing. And from CES and the announcement of the new Shield TV device, it appears as though Android TV is definitely getting Assistant. Looks, according to some demo videos, that it might even be a little bit better at the conversation mode than even what you get on your phone or the Google Home.
Yeah, we saw Nvidia demo it at CES. So they did their kind of announcement in the new Shield TV, which really isn't that different from the old one, but it comes with the bonus of Android 7.0, and eventually will come with the bonus of Assistant. It's not coming with it out of the box, unfortunately. So the cool thing is you can use the hot word, and then with the Assistant, you can carry on a continuous conversation instead of having to hot word it or press the microphone button constantly. Which is cool. It's neat. It makes sense. We talked to Nvidia about it actually, and because I was curious, why wouldn't you want this on maybe Google Home or something like that? Maybe like a little 2 or 3 second window after it gets a response for you to initiate a secondary query. But apparently, for now, Google's position is that this should only be on televisions. This should be a television only experience. Which seems like one of those things that I think once people use it and decide they like it, if that's what happens, then Google might change their minds. Seems like a good idea.
People only like talking to their televisions, David. If you've never watched football with a real fan, you would know this.
There's truth.
Yeah, it's neat though. It is very neat. It feels more like the future in terms of personal assistant interaction. The future.
The future. All right, so moving on to Rumor Roundup, but sticking with the whole Shield storyline. Apparently, there's some FCC documents this week regarding a new Shield portable, which we had a feeling was coming a while back, and it just didn't. I don't know if these documents really indicate that it's definitely coming by any stretch of the imagination, But I guess some folks out there are going to be hopeful because of this, right?
Yeah, what I would do is get a bag, get all your hopes, put them in the bag, and then lower the bag. Just put it way down there, bury it like 6 feet underground. Just bury your hopes. They're dead. I'm pretty sure this is not going to happen. Especially because it has the touchpad on it, and Nvidia totally ditched the touchpad on the controller.
And it also has the like the KitKat era icons on the nav area.
That's AOSP though, so.
Well, yeah, but they don't use those on their controllers anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this looks like older hardware that for some reason, so they submitted these documents originally last summer, and then the confidentiality on the exterior pictures just expired, so that's why they were suddenly available. Nvidia probably, I don't know, they made this hardware at some point thinking that maybe they would sell it and they might as well put it through the FCC, but then they decided they weren't going to sell it. But it's still like the documents are still there and accessible.
Yeah, I would love to hear the story about this because I'm sure there is somebody in NVIDIA who could dispel this with like one sentence. Yeah,
I mean, it looks, man, I want a new Shield portable though. Like the original one was cool, and now I think that like Game Stream and GeForce Now and everything is more fleshed out. Like a portable could be a lot more fun. I mean, with the built-in game controller and everything, with all of your hardware there, because like Shield TV is fine, but like if you're not near the TV and you want to play a game, like are you going to use like the 3-year-old version of the Shield portable with the Tegra 4? I mean, probably not.
Yeah, because I would bet, the battery by now is probably just trash.
Yeah.
So it never was that great.
The screen on this one from the FCC looks a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's very sad that they would make that and then just murder it.
I mean, I guess like I don't know, the first one I'm sure didn't sell that well, but I feel like they have a reason to sell it now. Like they say, hey, look, buy this handheld Android thing with the built-in controller and all that stuff, and all these PC games are available to you. And how cool would that be?
Right.
Like if they said, hey, buy the Shield and get like 6 months of GeForce Now for free. That would be pretty cool.
Would be pretty.
If anybody from Nvidia is listening, and you can save this thing and do that, I would like that very much.
But Ryan,
it only takes one person.
A slightly smaller Shield TV. Doesn't that sound just as exciting?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'll probably buy one because that's just what I do. But I would much prefer to spend that money.
Do you already have a regular Shield TV?
I do.
Why would you buy the smaller one?
I feel like there's probably going to be some reason for me to have it at some point, so I just might as well.
You're just going to take pictures of it next to the bigger one, and then.
I mean, that is something that I'm probably going to end up doing. So, maybe I'll ask Nvidia very nicely to give me one.
I need a Shield for scale.
Yeah, I need to see how big the first gen Shield is, and I feel like the new one would be a good yardstick with which to do that. So if you just send me one.
Shield Pro, so I can make sure that's the same size as the first generation one.
Also, I think it would be very helpful to see how big it is compared to like a GeForce GTX 1080. So if you want to send one of those too, then I'll just take a picture with all of each other.
Yep. Maybe two 1080s. I've heard they work together.
Yeah.
There you go.
Definitely.
Alrighty then. All right, so we're going to move on to Samsung rumors. We actually had a story up on the site regarding production-ready smartphones with foldable screens potentially coming from Samsung in Q3 of 2017. Now we're hearing a little bit more information that says that's probably more like early 2018. But I think the takeaway from here is that we're going to get foldable screens, whether we want them or not. They're coming.
I feel like foldable screens are like the self-driving, or like the flying car of smartphones. There's a year out from a workable prototype. We're just another year. We're almost there.
Yeah,
we're so close.
I just can't wait to have to iron the wrinkles out of my phone. That's going to be so good.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing for me is like the materials thing is really hard. That is because there's guess what? There's no such thing as flexible glass. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
unless you're superheating it.
And look, and it's great that like you can make a panel that like bends, but like I bet that it doesn't bend 1,000 times.
Well, it might bend 1,000, but maybe not 2,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it might like it's not
Yeah.
going to look right. Like I'm sure there's going to be some breakdown and like
Oh yeah, no, I've seen the
it'll be
Lenovo.
like it'll be like
yeah, you can see there's a seam.
it'll be like
There's
back when
issues.
like, every phone was a flip phone and the hinges would like last, you know, a year or two before they would break.
But probably worse than that because they'd
Yeah.
be more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean,
I remember the
moving-
Lenovo. Yeah, I remember the Lenovo phone. They were demonstrating the foldable thing, and somebody's like, "Well, what like prevents you from bringing it to the market?" I'm like, "Well, it couldn't stand up to realistic use in the world." That's kind of the thing we're dealing with right now. It doesn't actually work outside of a laboratory because people use their electronics, and we're discovering that's a pretty difficult problem to solve in regard to the foldable display.
if you would just like to look at it and marvel at the flexibleness, like
Maybe
once or
flex it. Yeah, exactly. Once or twice a year, just give it a good flex. Go ooh, ah, then put it back. And yeah.
it'll come
I
with
don't know why I
a
just
free
imagine
display
that when
case.
I imagine that when you fold it out flat, it's got like a ridge in the middle of it, like a book when you open a book all the way and put it down upside down. Just that little bump where the binder is.
Actually, Lenovo's phones had that. Where the polycarbonate had been folded enough times, where it's like a ridge in the middle where it just kind of like sits up. Yeah, that was very much a thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nice tech demo, and I just don't. I mean, I don't know. Like, this is the sort of thing that you always see in a movie. You think, oh, that's cool. Maybe we'll have that someday.
Yeah, you know what else should be flexible? Our expectations.
Yeah, if nothing else, if something like this did come out, it would totally revitalize the case market. Protective covers,
It's true.
rigid everything. Cases would become like a must. Which actually,
They would, I bet they could just come out with like a full glass condom for your phone with some hinges in the middle. Just cover the whole thing. And when it shatters, you just buy a new one.
glass condom for your phone. Episode title.
Maybe the glass phone condom.
I have to say, like, the term glass and condom together is like the most unpleasant thing I could possibly.
That sounds pretty unpleasant.
All right, so let's move on to other Samsung-y things. So apparently there was a menu, a contextual menu that popped up that hinted at a Samsung Pay Mini feature, and as well as Bixby, which is what we're hearing the name of the new voice assistant, because everybody has to have a voice assistant now. Will be from Samsung. So I don't know. So is Pay Mini, is that going to be for online purchases? Is that the theory?
Well, it's like Samsung Pay, but smaller.
Since Samsung Pay is a magnetic field, does that mean that you just have to get closer? I don't actually
know. I've actually not read this story, I must admit. I have no idea what's going on.
I mean, you know what? I feel like I'm just totally speculating. What it might be, if it's like a like some sort of dongle for your keys that you could do Samsung Pay with. Like if you don't have a Samsung Pay phone.
I like that idea a lot.
That's why I say that, because the company that Samsung bought, that they got this technology from, they
let me take this a step further. Let me just suggest that what if, instead of something you put on a keychain, maybe they just give you a piece of plastic you can put in your wallet. It's ultra slim, and you can use the plastic with all the existing card readers on Earth. It's universally compatible. I mean, call me crazy, but I think it could work.
Yeah.
I believe Google actually tried something similar.
Use that.
Remember the wallet card? Anybody?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still have mine around here somewhere.
It was the same thing, except instead of like a keychain, it's it's a card, and you could even put NFC in the card, so it'd be tap and pay card. You tap with your card. You have to swipe it, but you could swipe it if you want.
I wonder if you could get one that has one of those chips in them, and so you can insert them too.
Oh yeah, that'd be real tricky, wouldn't it?
Okay, but the chips are terrible. The
chips are terrible. Fuck the chips.
They really are.
The chips are terrible, but you just have to get used to them. I'm sorry, but you do.
I want NFC to
I
be
know.
everywhere.
No,
so I
I'm
don't have
using
to.
NFC everywhere I can now. I avoid the
Yeah.
chip. I actually saw a gas station the other day that had NFC payments at the pumps.
Wow,
I
that's
was
pretty cool.
really surprised. I mean, it was
That's especially good because Samsung Pay doesn't work at gas pumps because those readers have like the physical mechanism that needs to be triggered.
yeah, exactly. You know, it's
There
actually very
are-
cool.
There are car washes that have self-pay attendants that you can pay with NFC as well. I know because I work for the company that makes them.
But you know what? I reviewed the Gear S3 a couple weeks ago, and it has Samsung Pay built in, and that was a joy. That was like the best thing about that watch is like I would go to stores that didn't have NFC, and I knew like, okay, I'm gonna have to do the stupid chip thing, and then I would think, oh wait, that's right, I'm wearing a watch that does this, and it was cool. That was
Did people who were engaging the transaction with you, were they weirded out by this? I'm a little bit curious.
I got some sideways glances, but luckily it worked every time, so I didn't have to do that whole like, no, there's a very good reason that I thought
this
that would
should
work.
work.
Yeah,
Please,
I know.
Please don't call the police.
To be fair, though, I mean, Apple's had Apple Pay on the Apple Watch for how long? I think that
Yeah,
people
but
would be.
these
You know what?
are-
I
I
have
mean, like,
never seen somebody use that ever. And I
Yeah,
live in Los
neither
Angeles,
have I.
and there are lots of
But
people with Apple Watches.
But there are still stores that, I mean, a lot of stores probably that don't have NFC, so they're not used
That's
to
true.
people being able to hold anything up
Well,
to the scanners and have
And the other thing is, there's a lot of stores that do have NFC but don't have Apple Pay placards. They just have the old like Master Pass or just the Wave icon. And so I feel like people have Apple Pay are like, ooh, I don't. This does work. So I think that keeps a lot of people still from engaging in the wireless commerce.
I feel like if it was on my watch, like I could totally just like put my watch down there and like just reach for the wall at the same time, all nonchalant. If it works, you just like, oh, sweet, I'm done. And if not, halfway there already. So that's the slow play. All right, so let's move on. The LG G6 rumors are starting. Apparently, the thing we're hearing is that it's going to have a 18:9 aspect ratio on a 5.7 display, and it's going to be tall and look weird.
Oh man, I don't. So wait, okay. If it's 5.7 diagonal and it's 18:9, that would make it like, I mean, it would have to be like super tall, like uncomfortably.
It would be like all
stick
those.
out of your pocket.
It would be all those memes of the iPhone, like the iPhone 20 that's going to be
yes.
like super tall.
Actually.
Man, I just feel like this is probably a bad idea. I mean, like I'm definitely very pro OEMs doing crazy stuff because sometimes the crazy stuff works. Like the original Galaxy Note seemed crazy when Samsung released it, but that
It did.
turned out
I remember
well.
that. I remember when everyone made fun of that phone, and I was
I know.
one of them. And I was
I
like,
thought it was a great
It's
idea.
so big.
I thought it was a great idea. I just thought it was going to be like a woman-only phone.
I mean, okay, so maybe LG will do this, and we'll all hold it. We're like, no, this makes total sense for a smartphone. But I sincerely doubt that will be the case.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're doing split screen in landscape, that's 1:1 ratios on the two split screens, right?
Oh, I guess that
Wow.
might matter if there were a valid use case for that. I don't understand what it would be, but maybe.
I don't know, but
You can feel
but
better
I
about
have
your
a-
aspect ratio, I guess.
I
Assuming,
have
wait.
a feeling that that's kind of what they. I have a feeling that that's kind of how they
but no,
landed at that
the
aspect
navigation
ratio.
bar. The navigation bar
that's
throws
what I
a
was just
big
gonna say.
kink in the works there.
Yeah, it's not quite
right.
1-to-1, but it's close. It's
But then you also have the notification bar, the status bar, that also
So maybe when you add those bars in, it ends up at 4:3.
maybe it's like 1 to 0.93475243. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think the split screen thing is going to be the big. I think the big deal for them is they can say, listen, you can watch a video in native resolution, but you can still have, your navigation buttons right there. And
Oh boy.
I will say I don't really give a fuck about that, but maybe it could make a good sizzle reel. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
But
this
LG
phone is
plan
entirely like just so they can make a cool video.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be many cool videos made about this phone. Many cool videos.
Okay,
Yeah.
just for a second, I want you to picture what the keyboard is going to look in landscape.
No, the
God.
keyboard is going to be split. You're going to have half of the keyboard on each end, and the middle will be
Yeah.
the stuff that you're typing
It'll
into.
go from C
You'll
to
have
It'll
to.
be like, oh man, there was a phone like this back in the day that had like the keyboard that would be on both sides of the screen. I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was
Oh,
a
I know
what you mean.
smartphone.
You're not talking about the N-Gage, are you?
No, no, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, but there was one that like flipped down. It was the pre-smartphone, but I remember people were super into it for like a
Sidekick.
minute.
Was it the Sidekick?
The sidekicks had like the.
No, the Sidekicks
Keyboards
had
under
the
the
like
Sidekick.
they pulled out. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do some serious googling to see if I can find this thing.
Yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, the LG G6. They also revealed some other information about it recently, but I don't recall where and what it was. Yeah,
Well, it's not going to be
gonna
modular. We know that much.
It's not going to be modular, and
There
in
will
all
be no
honesty,
friends.
it's probably not going to be relevant. I think LG's they just kind of lost the race here, but I mean maybe they'll surprise us. I just don't see them having the technical expertise at this point and the momentum anymore to really.
It's kind of sad. I mean, I really feel like with the G2 and the G3, they were really moving in the right direction, and then
Yeah.
they went leather with the G4, and then they went modular with the G5, and
Yeah, it's funny with the G3 actually. So the G3 was the same generation as the Samsung Galaxy S4, right? Or was it Was it the same as the S5?
S4.
Oh god, I forget now. Okay.
I think it was
Anyway.
S4. 'Cause
Anyway,
then the G4 was with the S5.
and actually
yeah,
the G2
no.
even.
I don't know.
With the G2 and G3, LG was into the extreme bezel reduction thing before Samsung thought it was cool. I mean, Samsung always had pretty small bezels, but LG was like, yeah, but look at the big ass screen we can fit in here. And that was actually, that was a selling point for a while for them. And then Samsung was like, oh, wait, we should probably do that. It actually took them a while to get to the big screen part, too.
Well, if LG's going to screw around with anything weird, now's the time to do it. They've already kind of lost mind share.
Yeah.
I mean, if
lost mind share, take a year or two off and just do whatever your mad scientist team can come up with.
I mean, if we'll talk about HTC shortly, but if the thing that HTC is about to do doesn't work, that could make some room in the market for LG.
I mean, I feel like, but HTC's room has all been devoured already.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get there. But yeah, so that's the G6. It'll have a kind of wacky aspect ratio, and hopefully it'll run Android 7.1 because LG's all about the latest Android version.
And can I just interject? The phone I was thinking of was a Nokia E70. So if anybody wants to look that up, it's pretty fantastic.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I do remember seeing this. I've never seen one in real life. No one has.
No, me either. But no, I remember when that was
remember this. This is weird. This is even weirder than I imagined. It's before my time. Before I was into cellular telephony.
This is like basically what phones would be if you had conjoined twins.
Yeah, no, it's I remember. I'm pretty sure this was when I was in college that this thing happened. So I remember I remember seeing like ads for it on the internet and thinking like, wow, that looks cool. And then looking like, oh, it would cost me like $1 billion to have this.
That is.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the hinge mechanism is. Like, how does this?
It pops up.
It's like bottom, right? It just flips up. So like the keypad that you see when you're closed is on the back of it when the keyboard is like open.
Nokia E70 for everybody listening at home. The E70.
It was
Trust me, if you've never heard of this phone, you're in for a wild ride when you see this.
It was a Symbian phone, so yeah.
Yeah, it is something else.
Came out in I think 2005. Yes, announced in October 2005, released in May 2006.
Wow. 2000. Okay, so I will age myself as being very young here and say that was when I was graduating high school. So I was not in the smartphones at that point, or phones in general. I didn't care about phones.
Yeah, no, I finished college in 2006, so this was like at the very end of my college years.
I was a BlackBerry user in 2006.
I thought you were going to say you were black in 2006. Sorry, that was a bad joke. I will remove it from the final show.
Right about that time, I got my first smartphone, and which weirdly enough, I have in my hand right now. So,
no, you know what? I had.
It's funny because it looks weirdly similar to the E70, like style-wise. It just does.
So,
have you tried ripping the back off and flipping it around?
No, I have not.
So when this phone came out, I had a Motorola Sliver, which was like the super thin candy bar phone that they made. That was like the Razor, but not. But I had a Dell Axiom Pocket PC as well. PC. That was back when that was a thing.
Yes. I do remember Pocket PCs.
I had
I had a couple of those.
The HP, the iPac or something. I don't remember.
I had it. The iPacs were awful. I had an HP Jornada. That was my first one. That was crazy.
I remember those. Memories.
Good times.
Yes. I had some stupid like Kyocera flip phone. I don't even know what it was. It was terrible. I think I owned actually only 2 cell phones before I moved to a Nexus 1 in my entire life.
Wow.
So yeah, I was not into the mobile thing until much later.
Well, you're just young.
I guess. I didn't know. I mean, there are people who my same age who do this, who, you know, like they own so many phones when they were young. And I'm like, wow, I guess I just didn't have friends. So, you know, it was kind of, I didn't have much motivation to use the social aspects of a smartphone.
What I really want to talk about though is I had this little tiny blue alphanumeric pager when I was in high school. That was the coolest damn thing in the neighborhood. And I
remember.
I did that.
And let's be clear. When I say alphanumeric, all that means is that the screen could display letters in addition to numbers. That doesn't mean it could actually send anything.
No, that's like super useful because I remember people who had pagers in high school. Like you could get. Like they would get like number messages and they would try to decipher like what could these numbers mean?
But really it was just a callback number and they were idiots.
Like you would like look at the keypad and try to figure out which letter is each one of these numbers.
So is pager versus beeper, is that a regional thing? Was that
no, it's ubiquitous.
I don't know.
They're commonly referred to as
because I never heard pager growing up. I always heard beeper.
I mean, maybe this is like a Coke Pepsi thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Never heard. So pager was what the name of the device was. Beeper was a slang term for it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So
it paged.
But yeah, definitely around here they were.
Cultural understanding was that it beeped.
Yes, it did. And it vibrated.
Okay. That was back when there weren't very many things that beeped. So you could just say like that thing that beeps. It's like obviously everybody knows what that is. Now everything beeps.
It's either like a heart monitor or a pager.
Also, I would just like to point out that my pager bill was like $7 a month. And I thought it was ridiculously expensive.
That was back in like the 1X network days. So, you know, transmitting those bits.
Those bits. All right, so let's move on to T-Mobile Carrier 411. Uncarrier, do we have a number for the uncarriers anymore? Or have we just lost track? I mean,
this is Uncarrier 11, isn't it?
11?
Yeah, because the last one was X.
So this is XI?
Yeah.
Can we stick with a theme? I think we should stick with a theme.
I mean, we could call them all like Uncarrier shit after this because it's not going to get any better. This is all just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, it does. This one, they're like, no, look, 1 is so much better because it includes the taxes and fees. Like, okay, fine. That's like $4, which, okay, cool. Also, we're getting rid of the one choice plans. Go to hell. That's, I think, actually John Laguerre's direct quote. He ended that sentence with go to hell.
Yeah, probably. He probably did.
Because, yeah. It's terrible.
This is so yeah, that's the big change is you can no longer the one plan actually is closer to being one plan that you can buy on T-Mobile because it is the one plan T-Mobile is now offering to new customers or
like,
existing customers willing to change their plan.
And it's terrible. Like seriously, there's no way now to sign up for T-Mobile and have unthrottled video that is not a huge pain in the ass. Because you can buy the day passes, which are expensive. You can pay an extra how much is it? Is it an extra $20 a month or something for the unlimited day passes?
I want to say it's 20 or 25. I forget.
But okay, but then you still have to turn it on every single day, which I'm sure they're doing because they know people will forget. And it's just, I don't know, it irks me. Like I'm on T-Mobile and I have a simple choice plan. And if I ever didn't have that, I would probably not be on T-Mobile anymore.
Yeah, I would never switch to T-Mobile now with the plans they have.
I don't personally need unlimited data on a phone. Like I would prefer to pay less and not have that because that's doesn't fit my use case. And some people might need that and that's fine for them. But like not having a choice in the matter is not probably.
I would honestly prefer to go to icky yucky Sprint than to go to T-Mobile. And Sprint is vile, but they do offer tiered plans still. You have to, look on the website and find them, but they're also there and you can still buy them on the internet. It's novel. But I would probably go to Verizon first at this point. Honestly, Verizon actually kind of has the best per gigabyte data pricing of any carrier right now, which is weird.
It's weird how they got rid of unlimited and are kind of jerks about it, but if you want a capped plan for cheap, they're actually pretty competitive.
They are. You get 8 gigabytes for like $90 a month, which is damn good. It's better than AT&T for sure. And better than Sprint, I think, too. Or maybe it might actually be pretty close to Sprint. But either way, yeah, that's because Verizon's now at the network technology disadvantage. So they're trying to be more cost competitive, I guess. But yeah, whatever T-Mobile is doing is probably bad for you. That's kind of the general gist you should take away from any new T-Mobile announcement. It's probably bad at the end of the day.
They've turned the corner.
The thing you have to know is that Verizon's network is like 100 years old in dog years or something.
Yes, that is the John Ledger narrative. I mean, it really depends on region. AT&T's network is pretty old in that respect too. So I don't know. And T-Mobile still has a lot of issues in urban areas, despite whatever they say about their strength of coverage.
It is pretty interesting to me that their selling point on their network is, guys, we were so slow to bring this technology to you that our network is brand new.
We were first at being last.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some years ago, back in the Nexus S days, I was on T-Mobile because that was the only carrier that those phones worked on when they first came out. And man, T-Mobile's network was such garbage. It was bad. I gave thought to just buying a Samsung phone and switching carriers because it was so bad.
Yeah, in the mature 3G era, T-Mobile's network was easily the worst of anyone's.
Oh yeah, it would I think probably at least 2 or 3 times a day, my data would just freeze, and I had to toggle airplane mode off, on and off to get it to come back. So compared to where they were 5-6 years ago, they are so much better. And for a while, their plans were super competitive, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff. And now they've turned the corner. Now they're like, okay, we got everybody interested. Now we have to make money.
Yeah.
As weird as it sounds, I think the best thing that ever happened to T-Mobile was that Verizon bought up, who was it, Singular, and then didn't AT&T buy up Alltel?
AT&T got Singular.
Yeah.
And I believe Verizon got Alltel.
Okay, so I got those backwards. So that was probably the best thing that ever happened to T-Mobile.
I mean, also that failed takeover by AT&T was pretty good too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was such a cluster.
Oh, that was so good for T-Mobile.
Yeah, it was.
They made a mint off that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was.
All right, so let's move on to the hot sheet. We've got some HTC devices to talk about: the HTC U Ultra and Uplay are announced and officially things that are coming in 2 months or so if you want to wait for them. So it's always good. It's always good when you announce a product far enough in advance for people to forget about it before it launches.
Yeah. So David got to play with the U Ultra, which by the way is a terrible name. How is it?
Yeah, it's a phone. Like if they released this, like actually it was available to buy and they would send it to you 2 months ago, maybe pretty relevant, I guess, because it would fill a slot that the Note 7, had kind of left vacant. The V20 wasn't really doing a good job to fill, I guess. But at the same time, I'm not sure this would do a spectacularly better job, especially considering what a obvious ripoff it is of the V20's ticker display. But releasing in March with a Snapdragon 821, 4 gigs of RAM, and a totally ripped off ticker display, like, it's just really obvious that HTC was like, listen, the only way we can compete is to release our phone like a month before anybody else is available and hope that we can get some impatient people to buy it.
Yeah, so it's all glass this year, like the body of the phone, right? Like,
yeah, so the back is glass, the sides are metal, and the
yeah. So I mean, so it's like a Samsung phone. Basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
but actually even shinier, kind of, in a way. I don't know. It's hard to explain because it's a treated glass, and so the glass is actually like, HTC explained this, and I'm not going to explain it because I would do a very bad job of it.
So it's like
but basically,
super glossy, shiny glass.
yeah, exactly. It's been treated to be colored and stuff. It's not like a layer of foil underneath or whatever. I
see.
guess.
So like on the Samsung phones, like if you took the glass panel off, you could actually peel the color layer off.
I think so. This is different.
But this is just like glass that is colorful.
Yeah, this is they're very proud of this process for some reason.
It's weird, but credit to HTC at least on one thing. They will mess around with materials and the chassis of their phone so much. No one else does what they do in that.
Like aluminum, who cares about aluminum anymore? We're gonna do some crazy shit with glass now. We're gonna make color glass.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the people who were clinging to HTC are going to be okay with that, though.
No,
I mean, the reaction
love
so far
all
to the
metal
glass
so
choice has been quite negative. So
yeah, and no headphone jack, because I guess that's a thing that's happening now.
Yeah, which is bizarre. It's going to ship with an adapter and the same headphones that ship with the Bolt on Sprint, and yeah, that's they were unapologetic about that. That's just what they're doing now. So other than that,
and so yeah, the ticker display on the front, it is the same size and resolution and positioning as the V20, which is, I mean, come on, HTC.
Yeah, it is totally shamelessly a ripoff of that idea.
It even looks the same, like in operation. Like the stuff that it shows seems pretty much the same.
It does. It has like the quick control panel, and then time is the default setting with notification icons, and it really is very much the same. I'm sure it does a little bit of stuff differently, but not like meaningfully so.
I mean, like I was pretty skeptical of that little secondary display on the V10, but like I thought it was actually kind of good on the V20. It had an appeal. I don't think I would ever buy a phone on the basis of it having that. But,
exactly.
But I mean, it was fine. I used it.
That's kind of like the best you could say about it. Is like it doesn't hurt anything, and maybe sometimes it's kind of useful a little bit. Not really 100% certain on that yet.
Yeah, it was a weird choice for HTC to do that, but I guess.
Yeah, these phones. So the Play version, by the way, you can safely ignore forever. Don't even think about this phone. It may as well not exist. It has a MediaTek Helio P10, no release date, and runs Android 6.0.
Yeah, nobody cares. This is going to be like an emerging market phone or something.
Exactly. It is totally a waste of, it's a stupid phone. It is a bad phone. I refuse to give it any respect. The U Ultra, on the other hand, is $750, which probably given the components isn't a terrible price, but It has a small battery. It's 3,000 milliamp hours on a 5.7-inch display plus the ticker display. There's no way this phone's going to get amazing battery life.
And
There's just no way.
also no carrier tie-ins. So you can only buy it unlocked, and it doesn't work on CDMA networks.
Oh yeah, that's just HTC admitting that they're not competitive on carriers in the US anymore, and so they're not trying. And I believe so. Doesn't the HTC 10 have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery as well? It does. So this new phone with the display that is half an inch larger plus a secondary display has the same size battery. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Is it
bad.
thinner? Is it like a lot thinner than the?
I think it's 8 millimeters, which compared to the 10 is 9 millimeters. So it's a millimeter thinner. But it's massively larger. It's dimensionally much bigger.
And they saved the internal space with not having a headphone jack. Like, what's in there?
And they also didn't save internal space by using capacitive buttons. So it's bizarre. There's no waterproofing either. So there's like no excuse on like gaskets and stuff.
Yeah.
This phone is frustrating. It is like HTC made a phone that would be divisive and not necessarily ultra competitive 3 or 4 months ago, and they're releasing it 2 months from now. Why? It just seems like a really bad idea all around.
Yeah, a month after this phone comes out, the Galaxy S8 will come out with much better hardware.
Exactly, and it will have a much more stunning design. I can guarantee.
I feel like HTC at this point is just predestined to become Google's white label device manufacturing partner,
which I'm fine with, honestly.
Yeah. I would be okay with that.
They don't seem to have much to offer on their own.
You know what? HTC can make like budget oriented phones with the HTC branding. That can be like their thing that they do, but then they also build the Pixel.
Yeah, and so actually, speaking of, there's a piece of news we don't have on there. Engadget ran a story. They interviewed an HTC executive talking about the company's future plans here. Apparently, they're going to have the size of their phone portfolio for 2017 to like probably 6 or 7 devices versus the like 12 last year.
Did they also say that they're not going to make any cheap phones?
No. So they're going to keep the Desire line. So they're going to do some Desires, probably 5 or 6 of those. Maybe some even cheaper phones than that. And then when asked if there would be kind of a mainstream flagshipy thing, when asked if there'd be an HTC 11, well, yeah, it won't be called an HTC 11. And that's all they're willing to say. So it could be the HTC is realigning their release cycle maybe for later in the year to do the mainstream flagship phone, which honestly, to me seems like the worst idea than doing it alongside LG and Samsung. LG and Samsung, they're big. Well, LG's not that big anymore, and Samsung's huge. But at the same time, otherwise, if you're going later in the year, you're going up against Apple, and you'll never get any attention unless you're Google and spend lots and lots of money on advertising. And essentially, basically forcing journalists to come to cover your phone launch. HTC just doesn't have that clout. So maybe they're just kind of banking on the relative scarcity of phone launches at that time of the year, or
maybe what they're going to do is they're going to release slightly ahead of the iPhone and try to compete with the Note phones that they think are dead.
But they just released a Note competitor for a Note that doesn't exist, which is like, I don't really understand what they're trying to do anymore. They've made a shift, and I don't really get why. But yeah, in regards to the HTC 11, there won't be an HTC 11. It's not going to happen. Not going to be a thing. Yeah. So the whole one brand is dead. There's no.
Oh, so they actually said they're not going to make one phones anymore?
Well, so this is where things get slightly murky. So I was in a pre-briefing about these U phones, and so there's this big section of the presentation, not big, but there's like a section of the presentation where the HTC executive who's doing the presentation was like, U is now the flagship brand of HTC, blah, 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 blah. And then this PR rep interrupted and said, not that we're not saying we're going to build an HTC 11, kind of like jokingly. And then the exec's like, well, that's kind of what we are saying, I guess. And then they moved on. which is to say they're not making an HTC 11. There might be some kind of high-end mainstreamy phone later in the year, but yeah, the whole one line, the 11, that's dead.
It's dead. I want a new 1X. Can we get a new 1X?
I like the 1X. I thought it was a very cool looking phone, actually. I know a lot of people did not like it.
What about the 1V? I think everybody kind of forgot the 1V happened.
Oh, I love the 1V because it was so retro. It was an HTC Hero rehash.
The 1V.
Yeah, it had the chin like the Hero did.
Yeah.
The plastic chin. They kind of jutted out.
It
was actually
It was
pretty
announced-
cool looking.
I can't picture this phone. I'm gonna.
It was announced at the same time as the 1X, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Weren't
the 1X, 1S, and 1V.
I just forgot that this phone existed.
Right? It looked pretty cool at the time.
There was also, what was it, the Legend? The HTC Legend? Wasn't that another phone?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yes, that also had a chin, but it looks like this looks older and chunkier.
Yeah.
When was did the 1V actually come out in the US?
No, I don't think it did.
So I remember there was the 1S that was on T-Mobile.
Yes, and the 1S was
that one had like the weird electroplated back or something.
Yes, it did.
Famously chipped off after like hours from leaving the box.
Yes. I do remember that as well.
Great experiment that went very horribly wrong.
Yeah.
All right, so we didn't do a show last week because last week was CES, which means that most of what's gone on at CES you've probably heard about by, of course, reading about it on our site. Because how else would you find out about it? But I thought it would be appropriate. There was an article posted, the best of CES 2017. David, you were there. Is there anything in particular you wanted to bring up and talk about that you saw at the show?
Okay. Considering how long we're running, let me just blaze through here and take a quick look-see. We named some smartphones we thought were notable, and those were the BlackBerry Mercury concept, which looks interesting if you're into a physical keyboard. The Huawei Mate 9, which is being released in the US for the first time, and it has Amazon Alexa, which is weird. But it's also a good phone, just all around. So we thought it was noteworthy. And then there's the Zenfone AR, which has Tango and Daydream support, which makes it a first. And if you're really into those things, maybe it's something to pay attention to.
That actually could be really, really cool in combination.
But they don't work in combination, so I don't really know. As far as phones though, CES is typically low key. Wasn't a big deal. We saw the new Nvidia Shield TV. We saw the new Dish Air TV. The Air TV actually looks like a kind of a neat little TV box. Looks better than the Xiaomi Mi box to me, on paper at least. There are some accessories, but don't really want to talk about those. I think the most important announcements of CES, there are two of them to me. The first, just real quickly, Snapdragon 835. I think it's important because it's going to be in a bunch of stuff. And it's improved and new. So it's faster. It's more efficient. It's Snapdragon-ier or something. Yeah, it'll be a thing this year. So you'll see phones with that, and they'll be better because of it, probably. I'm not going to really get into that, though, because there are much better people to talk about that. The Chrysler Uconnect with Android Nougat car operating system, to me, was the most exciting thing I saw that was Android-related at CES. And I know there are some cool Chromebooks, but those are vaguely Android-related. So the cool thing about this whole thing Chrysler did with Google, so they worked directly with Google to develop a car operating system, or I should say, technically an infotainment and vehicle control operating system based on Android 7.0. And so the idea is, hey, you get Google Assistant, you get all of the apps that are already in Android Auto, but they're baked into your car. And plus you get Google Assistant, so you get contextual conversation features, the hot word detection. You don't have to worry about switching between like a projected mode and a native interface mode in your car, which is honestly one of the biggest pains in the butt about Android Auto in some vehicles. it just all works because it's part of the car operating system, because the car runs Android. It's great. I think this is the really important evolutionary step that Android needs to take to work in the car. And unfortunately, Chrysler wasn't really keen on talking to us about this. So we took a bunch of video of the operating system in action through a demo, a limited demo. There were certain things that weren't allowed to be touched. We couldn't touch the screen, etc. And then there was this very long meeting in the car with the Chrysler executive and one of the engineers on the team. And I was told, hey, you know, once these guys are done talking, you can talk to the engineer who worked on the project. And I was like, oh, wow, that'd be great, because I'd love to do an interview with somebody who worked on this project. It sounds very interesting. And they're like, no, I can't talk to anybody. It's not allowed. It's not Chrysler policy to do that. I'm like, huh, is this like a recent development? And then they're like, I can't talk to anybody. So I was disappointed with this because I wanted to know more about it. I'm emailing with Google, so hopefully we can learn a little bit more about this, because I think it's very important in terms of Android getting into the car. Android Auto is the foot in the door. This is Google saying, hey, we can bring you even more by being baked fully into the infotainment stack. That means that your car's apps could be updated theoretically. Like that's important, you know, because as things stand now, unless you get like a dealer firmware upgrade, you're never going to get enhanced functionality on like your navigation app.
But right now with Android Auto, all that stuff is your phone, right? So when your phone gets updated, the stuff in Android Auto is updated.
Exactly. But with this, you don't have to worry about A, who's driving your car in terms of the phone that's connected, and B, you know, your phone can just charge. You don't have to worry about like Bluetooth or anything like that, you know, that you don't want to. You don't have to worry about does Android Auto have like a Wi-Fi protected mode if I don't want to plug in my phone? It's all just there. It makes a lot more sense to me. And so your phone could provide like the pass-through for internet connection if your car doesn't have a built-in LTE connection.
And hopefully maybe like to access my data, like my music and stuff, or like,
yeah, of course. But think about this. Like, think about that. Hey, you could cache or, you know, download your music to internal storage on the car instead of having to do it on your phone. You know, that could be cool too. And
okay,
I think there's so much potential here.
Okay,
I'm very excited.
Answer me this. When is my car going to get an OTA update?
Yeah. Well, probably never.
So I buy a car with like Nougat, and that's great for 6 months, and then Android, you know, comes out, and then the one after that, and the one after that, and then my car is like super outdated. Like,
but I mean, so this is the thing. Like, I guess the thing to realize is that Android already exists in cars in a very scary way.
I know.
Hyundai,
I have a Honda with the head unit running some crazy messed up build of Android, but it also has Android Auto, which is the only thing I use.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gets even scarier. Like Hyundai sells hundreds of thousands of cars that run gingerbread. Like, so it could be a lot worse. I think this is a big step in the right direction. Does it solve all the problems? No, of course not. But I think it's addressing them. And it's also that Google's willing to sign off on it and say, hey, we think this is a good idea. We like how this puts Android in the car. I think that says a lot. I think it's important.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to be sold on any idea like that. Something like that really works. And Ryan's right. It's the OTAs. They have to do a single specific hardware platform and just keep the same hardware platform for like.
All right. But okay,
years at least.
You know how they could manage this is they make the infotainment system like they like completely firewall it from anything having to do with the way the car works, and they work out some system by which Google can just push updates to that without affecting like any sort of regulatory stuff with the rest of the car.
Will never happen. But
I know, but that's the only way I can imagine this actually making sense.
No, but I think the other thing to remember is that Android Auto will never achieve the deep level of integration with vehicle functions that you can do with this. So for example, with this, you can say, adjust the air conditioning to 68 degrees, and your car can do that. It understands that now. That's kind of incredible. Whereas with Android Auto, Android Auto has no hope of ever doing that. It will never do
that. That has the like the car management app, and it's like a subscription, and they added
Hyundai,
support for
Blue
Android.
Line.
Huh?
Is it
Is it
Hyundai
Honda?
Blue Line?
No,
Hyundai.
it might be Hyundai. Yeah. So yeah, they like you have the subscription and it goes through the app, and like they added Android Auto support, but it's not actually happening locally. Like it's going up to Hyundai's servers and then back down to the
Which,
car.
by the way, it takes like 30 seconds. I've
Yeah.
used Blue Line. It takes forever.
Because they don't want Google to have like direct access to the stuff.
Yeah. No, then that's
They're
why
also the one that
having
you
Google
can start-
Assistant.
You can start your car from Google Home though, so that's kind of cool.
You can. I just think having Google Assistant baked directly into the car opens up much more possibilities, because car manufacturers, the chance that they'll ever give Google like an interface that it can bus through your phone over a USB port is zero. It's just never going to happen. It's a security vector issue.
Yeah, but I mean, that's maybe roughly the same chance that they'll ever issue an OTA update to Android OS in your car.
But at the same time, I'd rather have the assistant on my car if it means I can actually do more meaningful things with the car in terms of voice commands. I just think, I see all the drawbacks. I understand that. But it's kind of like saying, like, things in cars are already terrible. This is making them substantially less so.
And I'm
okay with that advancement.
Can we at least agree that Android on your car that doesn't get an OTA is really no different than the crappy infotainment system it already has that doesn't get an OTA?
Exactly.
That part is not changing.
It would be better for like the first year you have the car, and then it would get progressively worse until it was essentially no different.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I still feel optimistic about this.
So that's why you just lease for 2 years, and then you get an upgrade just like you do on your phone.
I guess.
This is like the one thing I'm optimistic about, and everybody hates it.
I know, we're just like crapping all over it. Like, David, you're just so wrong. Take your hopes, put them in a bag, and just bury them, right?
Exactly.
I'm with you, David. I'm with you. I want it. Although I will say, I have over the last couple of months gotten really used, ever since they added Assistant to Android Auto, or I should say, I don't know that it's full baked assistant. It's okay Google support anyways. To Android Auto, using that on my phone with just like one of those magnetic clips, so it's sitting right next to my entertainment or infotainment system. I actually use that exclusively, and I love it. So having that baked right in is actually kind of okay with me. But if I could also tell it to adjust the air conditioning, hey, sounds good to me.
Precisely.
All right, well, that is going to about wrap us up for this week. We ran a little bit long. Sorry we didn't get to the emails. If you have one that you'd like us to hopefully get to in an episode where we don't run long, you can email us at podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also give us a call at 530-HELLO-AP. That is 530-435-5627. You can also find us on Twitter at Android Police and Google Plus and Facebook.
Okay, gonna stop the broadcast.